What's up guys, my name is Zero Heroes and welcome back to more Gatesville. And just before we start, I'd like to apologise for being away for a bit. My PC actually broke down, it kept flickering and it wouldn't update to Windows 11, so I was away for a wee bit. And I thought it would maybe only take a day or two to fix, but I actually had to take it into the computing store and get it fully fixed. So I do apologise if it took some time to upload again. But we are back and we are here with a brand new tutorial video, which is all about which is the best T-34 Soviet tank. Now, I admit that it is quite loud, so hold on, I'm going to turn the engines off. Ah, that's better. I can actually hear myself think now. So, what we're going to be doing, what is the best T-34 tank? Now, as you know, Gates of Hell is expanding its units all the time, and Gates of Hell has always found a way to produce the most historic and accurate tanks in the game. And that is no exception when it comes to the Soviet tanks. As you can see, I've linked up the 8 most powerful, and I think one of the best T-34 in the game now, but we need to know which one is actually the best T-34, because they're all as you know, the T-34 produced a lot of, the Soviets produced a lot of T-34s in World War II, and that's how they became so effective during them. But which one is actually the best in the game, and which one is basically a best buy for when you are playing Gatesville, when you're playing Conquest, when you're playing a mission? Doesn't matter what it is. What is basically the most cost effective but also the best T-34 that you can use in Gates of Hell? So if you like to see more of this content, then make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. And let's just get straight into it. So the first one we're going to be I just got deafened by the commander there, is the T-34 1941, which is actually I was going to start off with the original one. Sorry, I was about to start off with the original, kind of the first T-34, which is a T-34 M1940, which is hence why it came out in the 1940s, and it carries a 76mm gun with a machine gun in its hull. I believe it's called the DT, and its hull armor is actually pretty decent, ranging between 10 and 100mm, and the turret, I have to say, is very weak from being 15 to 45mm, and the reason you can tell is because it's not as advanced as your 1942 T-34. So when you are playing against this tank, you definitely want to hit it in the turret, because the hulls are actually mostly all the same with all the T-34s besides the shielded version, but with the rest of them it's mostly, you know, they're mostly the same. So when you're aiming for this tank or you're up against it, you're mainly possibly want to get a 57mm or above, or at least a 37mm or above, so you can actually deal with the tank, and always aim for the turret, as you're able to kind of get the turret stuck, and that means it's not able to move its turret and able to kill off your infantry, your AT gun position, whatever it. Now this tank does carry 4 crew, so it is relatively actually cheap to get some crew. You know, I think there maybe cost about 10 man points. And for the cost of this tank, I think, believing it of me, is about 320 man points, or manpower I should say. If I'm wrong, then let me know in the comments down below, but I'm pretty sure that's right. And it is probably your most cheapest, most cost-effective one that you'll get, because it is, of course, the 1940s, but that is in the early stage of kind of your doctrine stage, or your late war. So you have early, mid, and late, and in the Soviets, the early one is this one, I believe. So it's a very, very good tank, very powerful tank, and it is, if you are driving it yourself or if you are using it, then you are better using it against tanks that will be able to defeat it, such as, you know, your lightly armored kind of early version of Sherman tanks, you know, ones that maybe carry a 75mm, although that is still a very, I would say that's actually probably more, your Sherman actually might beat the, you know, the Soviets in that case. But if you're doing a kind of a fictional, but I'm glad he talked over me, because I really appreciate it, and I was just, you know, just go ahead, just take over the video. Sorry, I'm joking. Anyway, so yeah, T-34M 1940, brilliant tank to start off with, but I think you could do better for starting off, as it is the cheaper side, but I also think you could do better. Let's move on to the next one, which is quite similar in design. It's actually the T-34M 1941, if I'm getting that right. So yeah, there's two. So you got the T-34 M1941 and you got the M1941, but one with a 57mm. Actually, this is both one with a 57mm. Oh, that one's, sorry, with a 76. Sorry, there you go. I'm actually failing at my job already. So this is the 1941 version, but this one with a 76 version, and you've also got one with a 57mm. Now, both are actually exactly the same kind of layout. The turrets are the same, the armor is the same, and like I said, the only difference is that the fact it is got a different type of gun. Now, which one would you pick if you had to pick between the 76mm and then the 57mm? Now, in this case, because you can tell the barrel is actually slightly longer on your 57mm, if you want to go with more accurate and more rapid firing tank, gun, then go with the 57mm. But if you're more of a tank that really wants to punch, really punch a tank, hard hitting tanks, then go for the 76mm, as it has better probably penetration on its shells, but also better shell velocity, even though it's firing depending what shell you're firing, whether it's AP or APCR. But for if you really want to kind of get through possibly your Tiger tanks or even tougher tanks, go for your 76, but it does have that longer reload, I have to say, and it is slightly slower in the rate of fire. But on that, both tanks are exactly the same, besides the caliber of gun. But in my personal opinion, if I was picking to kind of start off with, what would I do? Now, I would probably pick, again, depends on the situation that you're in, but in my case, I would go actually for the 57mm, just because it has that more rapid DPM, has a faster rate of fire, but also because it's pretty damn accurate, I would say, probably more accurate than 57mm. So if you are shooting better at longer range, then your 57mm will do better than your 75mm. But if you guys have maybe more experience playing these tanks, and you feel like I'm wrong, or you feel like... I swear to God, I think the Russians just want to take over my video at this point. My point being that I think that the 57mm will do better at longer range, where your 75mm will do better at shorter range. So that is my opinion. And also for price wise, I think they're about 480, I think, manpower. I'm saying I think because I tried to look up where to get actually the cost of it all, but I couldn't actually find it on the internet. So if anybody knows the prices of these, even though I should really have it, playing it for several years now, but I think they're roughly about 480, maybe 450, I think, manpower. And because they are both the same tanks, but one is probably got higher caliber, I presume the 76 will be more expensive than your 57. But again, this could be all talking out my arse, even though I should probably be a wee bit more prepared for this. Anyway, let me know what your comments, let me know what your thoughts are below. Do you prefer the 57mm or the 75mm? And while you're down there, make sure you subscribe as well. That'd be very, very useful. Thank you very much. Okay, going on to the next one, which is the shielded version. This is this is the same gun you get as the 76mm, but as you can see, there's a clear difference in the fact that it actually has armor. It's a shielded version, as you can see. So you can see the actual difference between all the Soviets is that it has side skirting from the sides, it has side skirting from the front, even from the rear. You can actually tell it looks different from the back end of it. So even from the turret, so I have to say, when I played this tank, I thought, oh, it's going to last better than your regular T-34s in kind of the same era. But actually, realistically, you're going from the extra armor counts as 2 to 15mm of armor. That's what it says here. So in that case, then you're probably going about 115mm in the, that's on the turret armor, I should say. So that effectively should possibly put it up to about 65mm of armor, if my math is correct. But if not, then depending on, the reason it says 2 to 15 is because depending where the enemy tank is shooting from a particular angle and how it is. So, but this tank is actually very good, but I also think this is actually a complete waste of money. I would actually kind of avoid it. It is good, but I would kind of avoid it as well. It does have the same crew as the rest of the T-34s for crew, and when I played this in a conquest, I just thought it was a waste of research points and a general waste of manpower, because I played for it with a few battles, and I would have probably preferred even the regular T-34 M1941, as it just does the same job. But even though you do have that extra armor, it doesn't effectively work against stronger tanks such as a Panther or maybe a Panzer IV-H. You effectively just have the same armor because because they are stronger tanks, and the Germans usually are stronger. So in that case, I would actually say avoid really the shielded version at all costs, because it is really a waste of manpower, and I really don't like it. Okay guys, what I've actually done now, I've kind of brought out the two tanks. So what I'll do is, if it's like comparable tanks, I will actually kind of bring them forward just so it's easier for you guys to see as well. So this is now actually... These fucking Russians, I swear. I'm joking. So the next two kind of competitors next is now you're kind of going into your later kind of stages of conquest. So when you're kind of maybe in your mid-war section of your conquest or your mission. So this is the T-34 M1942, one with a 57mm and one with a 75mm. Now, what is my preference now? As you know, I said when I was talking about the M49, the 49 version, I said about the 57mm was better because it's more accurate and it has better DPM. But in this, the 1942 version, I would actually go for the 76mm, even though the parameters still count the same, whereas the 57mm does have that same kind of DPM and has the same accuracy. These fucking Russians, I swear. Anyway, then I would actually pick the 76mm because you're now later in the stage of war, so you're going up against tougher tanks and tougher AT guns, and with that higher caliber, it has that extra penetration and that extra damage that it needs to do to deal with those targets, such as possibly like the side of a Panther or a Tiger. You're actually now possibly even damaging modules. You know, tracking a Panther or tracking a Tiger is crucial to just disabling it so it's not able to move. With the 57mm, you might have to shoot it at least 3 or 4 times to track at least a Tiger, whereas the 76mm version, you're definitely going to do a lot better than that, where you maybe need to track a Panther once or twice to even just track it, and that means it's not able to move, and then you're able to flank round it from the sides and possibly even just get a 1-shot or even a 2-shot to ammo rack it or to damage its fuel tank from the side. So in this case, I would go for the 76mm just because of the type of situation you are in, that you are later in the stage of war, so you are going to use that 76mm, which is a lot better. So that is my opinion on that. The next one we're going to be talking about is that now we're going later in this stage of the war, so late stage, which is now the 1943 stage tank T-34s, which again both carries a 76mm gun, but the difference is that one of them carries a flame instead of a machine gun. So as you can see on the kind of the hull here, you see this T-34 carries like a machine gun, whereas this one carries a flamethrower to deal with those infantry. So what is better and what is more cost effective? Well, I would say, so you've got the T-34 M1931 does carry that DT kind of machine gun, which can deal with infantry very quickly, but you have the flamethrower version, which is obviously much better for kind of killing your surrounding areas when you are dealing maybe with AT infantry, whereas machine gun, you can't really go through an AT gun, so it'll be harder to kill, whereas a flamethrower, you'll be able to kill the crew instantly and they will basically disable that AT gun. My personal opinion, of course, you're upgrading the turret now, so the turret and the hull armor, the turret armor is a lot better than your 1942 versions, your 1941 versions, but in my case, I would actually possibly go for the flame version called the OT-34, just because even though it's not a machine gun, it doesn't have the same range. You know, the range is actually, you know, the distance to shoot or to fire flamethrower is actually less than a machine gun, whereas a machine gun has probably got about 60-70 meters, whereas the flamethrower maybe has about 30-40 meters to shoot, or even 15 meters at best if you're kind of coming from a tank, because it is a flamethrower is from short range, whereas a machine gun can be short range but also from long range. But you're not, if you're in a dangerous situation where you're up against AT guns or even tanks, then you actually can set a tank on fire with the flame tank, and that will kind of get the engine to go on fire, and then I'll disable the tank or kill the crew off, or set the crew on fire, which will disable the tank, AT gun, whatever it is. So in my situation, I would actually go for the flame version, just because you're able to deal with a lot more situations better than you do in the machine gun, where you're only able to kill infantry, and whereas the flamethrower, you're able to disable tanks even if let's say you bounce off your regular kind of caliber gun, which is 76mm, you can still try and set them aflame. And also you're able to disable kind of AT guns, which is a massive situation where you are getting later into the stages of the war, where AT guns are getting very dangerous, where you get 122mm guns, or basically 85mm guns, or 8.8cm guns. It is very, very dangerous. So flame 100% I would take. And for the price range, I think the flame one is actually on the special version. I think, on one of the special doctrine units, I believe, whereas it is the T-34 is more available, but I believe this one, I think, is also available. I'm not quite sure. Let me know in the comments down below. But I would say overall, for cost wise, for effectiveness, if you're purely just want to go pure kind of aggressive flame out and try to kill everything, the flame. But if you're kind of more of kind of be more conservative kind of approach, then go for your T-34. But in cost wise, I would say probably the T-34 M1943 is more available to get, and your flame is more harder to get. But I would definitely choose the flame over. I would definitely save my credits for that. But if you are desperate and you really need a tank, then go for the T-34, because it is actually still quite an amazing tank. And I would still possibly even put this up against a Panther or a late Panzer 4H if I was going up against one. But there you go, guys. That is in conclusion of the T-34. Which one is actually the best one overall? I can tell you which is the least favorite, which is the shielded version. But my favorite overall, based on what I've played, and for kind of if we're basing it off kind of what is the cheapest, what is the best kind of cost effective, and also which is the same thing, but also which is your best for kind of armor wise and mobility, I would actually probably say your T-34 57mm. Honestly, it's such an overall just round, well shaped tank. Even though it is kind of early in the war, this tank can seriously pack a punch, just with its rapid firing 57mm, with its good accuracy, and also with its decent armor mobility as well. I would highly class this as my favorite T-34, of all time. And honestly, this is just something that I agree with. But of course, you guys let me know in the comments down below, what is your favorite T-34? Do you have a favorite one? Do you have a least favorite one? Let me know in the comments down below. But also, guys, I did put in the community post as well about a new series idea about kind of reviewing missions, and kind of in a tutorial way, showing you how to do missions that you guys are really stuck on. So if you are stuck on a mission that you really find hard and you're not able to do it, then let me know in the comments down below what mission it is, from what faction, and let me know, and I'll try and cover it as much as I can. But other than that, guys, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching and our support. And if you want to see my most recent video about kind of how I blew up a big ass howitzer, then click left here. But other than that, thank you so much for watching and our support, and I will see you in the next video. See you later, and goodbye.